The powers of Elesh Norn. And if you're still here, there are two options for your state of being. Either you're entranced or you'd like to know more about the mother of machines and her powers. Let me help you with that last thing. Elesh Norn works with order and devotion. Her goal is to unify. She herself has an aura that makes people feel at the same time inspired and tired. Her allies only feel inspired because their devotion is complete. It's perfect. Norn can control her voice to be soft, but usually it booms so loud that most people lose their hearing. Her soldiers do exactly what she wishes and are unable to do otherwise. She uses tactics of religion to defile what's yours and to put what's hers on a pedestal. Elesh Norn will have you give up just to take the power of giving up away from you, because you will have never-ending perfect devotion. Let's look at how. The original mother. Here she gets her red robes handed to her for the first time, as if she's literally taking on the mantle of leadership. Now we see that her influence, which is the power of all Praetors, of granting her minions unending devotion while taking the morale of her adversaries, is all-powerful. In the flavor, she already had the goal of bringing Phyrexia's magnificence to other worlds, and this shows us that Norn not often changes course. She is the Praetor of stability while she disintegrates the will of opposition. She strengthens and gives form to her own statues and monuments of grandeur while destroying that of others. Even before Mirrodin was taken, there was already a group of beings without will, who lived for their hives. These Mir are just an example, but I will show you all of Mirrodin, which was under the influence of the white sun or moon of Mirrodin, already in order. In that same vein, here is the white mana version of humans from Mirrodin, the Aureok, who have learned that allies are more important than water on this world. They're needed to survive, which sounds extreme, and while it's true, the Phyrexians take this devotion up a notch and make it final. They don't need it to survive, but to them it is survival. For the Phyrexians, devotion is part of their nature. When most of them get completed, they become drones, priests and clerics who have been open to their sun's influence, might become soul eaters. These will preach to the drones and inscribe them with subservience, as the flavor says here, reinforcing the sacred order. Of course, the machine orthodoxy, Norn's faction, is an order, but what I mean here is that order itself is sacred. It's a lot more than just a value, it is a religion. Norn's soldiers, as the one you see here, are unable to move unless ordered to do so by a higher ranked official or by Elesh herself. They stand perfectly still, and whenever one defects by twitching a muscle, they're removed. Most often they will remove themselves for being imperfect. Still, these soldiers and clerics are able to grab an invisible serpent out of the air with one stroke of their arm. This art is important too. You see the characteristic blood red and porcelain white colors of the orthodoxy, and in the back you see the roots of the realm breaker that Norn uses to unify the multiverse. The thigh thing from before was not a joke. Her minions fight and live in order to become part of her throne. In other words, they want her to sit on them. Then her most loyal servants can become statues that are part of her chair. This is perfect order as well, because statues, of course, don't move at all. This is not a personal need for the minions, but it is the only thing to strive for when you want to be as close to your leader as possible. The sad thing is that Norn has left her old throne for a new one closer to the World Tree or Realm Breaker. So many of her old favorites have been abandoned. Before getting throned, you need to become completed. For many new clerics, this means that they will have to drown themselves in oil. This is like letting go of your old self and of your own control. Then, when your body needs it most, it will go for breath, and that's when you can, according to Norn's scriptures, finally truly breathe again. And to get to this honor of drowning yourself to completion, you need to show respect, which is of course a weapon Norn loves, as it makes others bow down to her too. Beings that were made of flesh and other weaknesses need to bow down and show respect before ever becoming proper drones of the orthodoxy. Note in the art that there is a beacon of light behind Norn, because that beam of light is what gave her purpose and personality. Every Praetor of New Phyrexia gets their power from their sons. In the case of the Bringer, which is the White Sun, it brought about religion and civilization. But at first it just brought order. It put people, thoughts and all the apps in your phone in order. There would not be a book out of alphabetical order under this sun. It made the Leonin especially work together as a pride, and while they did feel pride, it would only be for their group. The people of the Razor Fields eventually would come together to celebrate the sun coming over their villages. The Bringer sometimes literally unite its rays of light to come to one place, and this would prompt all the people from the plains to come together too, thus completing its purpose. And this is the flavor of the Zenith from the White Sun too. Even after a battle between multiple tribes who fought for one field, the appearance of the White Sun would stop their fight and bring hope to the people of these tribes, so that they would once again come together to rally against the Phyrexians. Even rebels would see the sun and would stop their fighting. Just like how we saw how the Blue Sun would make goblins smart, the White Sun can make the fight right out of your heart. This is exactly how Elesh Norn makes you feel tired. Because you don't want to fight, you want to be together, and that felt like inspiration to Elspeth Terrell. For the Leonin, who are closest to the sun in many ways, they learned how to harness the powers of their sun, even to the point where Nim, which are zombies, would be forced to their knees from their mere presence without the influence of Shieldred. After every sun's zenith, the influence of the sun transforms the White Sun's twilight too. When the sun moves down, we see a statue of Elesh Norn opening her arms, welcoming the sun to her being. Meanwhile, the Red Sun is seen over the horizon, weakening as the White Sun gains power. Her, Elesh Norn's, welcoming posture is a philosophy for the orthodoxy too. Everyone is welcome to add to their structure as long as they fit in there perfectly, but the Phyrexians don't really see the irony therein. Eventually, one of Norn's angels defected and created the Mites. They were embraced in their society too, as they could help protect their layer of Phyrexia against the other Praetors. Though when enough mana is put into the orthodoxy, they'll destroy everything that's not within their structure, and there is the extremity of the Phyrexians again. Now, the cleric I showed you before makes more sense. Their open jaw shows a lot of light, and that is how the Phyrexians started to harness the power of their sun. Its light would literally blind drones, so that they must be more obedient. Phyrexians often take things very literally, and as they learned about the unifying influence of the sun, they tried to recreate its light. Now here's a weird one, which is one of the 5 Domini of New Phyrexia. These are pieces of the land of which Mirrodin transformed just before the Praetors took form. They are more pure essences of their sons and came to life with that essence. This one brings people together but also seems to destroy spires and structures around it in the art. The Domini are masters because they enforce and control in their ways. This one with Norn's colors of sinew and porcelain helps double your tokens. This is because it brings the soldiers together, and then the soldiers can sacrifice themselves, or they bring offers of artifice, thus these pillars that are destroyed, so that the Dominus becomes more indestructible. They offer their body to become closer to each other. That is Norn's philosophy as well. The Aureox slowly got influenced by the oil around them when its influence spread. They started to see artifice and especially the orderly mirror around them as sacred. This feeling of divinity for artifice is what influences Norn's powers, because she now uses religion as a tool for creating unity and thus her power. Even when Childred brought oil to Dominaria, the people there became missionaries for the scriptures that Norn often writes and rewrites herself. This is her version of the scriptures from Yawgmoth himself, and all the edited words are written in the oil that completes itself. In this way, the other Praetors will never be rid of Norn. She uses more tools, repetition being one of them. Her priests repeat her scriptures over and over and over and over again, and the stronger clerics can even send these repetitions straight to the minds of the drones, as we see here with Indoctrination Attendant, who is in the process of imprinting Norn's propaganda. In the same way, Norn chooses to have her minions and sculptures use the same colors every time. This clear distinction between the red, which stands for the insides of your body, and the white, which stands for the stability of the orthodoxy. Together, they manage to bring Norn's minions as close as possible to each other's innards. Where Jin-Gitaxias had trouble completing a sphinx, Norn's high price was converting an angel. These angels and their purity can often be a weapon against the Phyrexians, which makes them hard to even touch for them, and definitely hard to complete and turn to your cause. Norn succeeded eventually and made the Angels of Mirrodin into a sign of lost hope for the Mirrans who fought the angels untaintable. This is also why the Chancellor makes your spells more expansive. They lose hope. Now even the angels are turned into Norn's colors, and now they are carriers for her mites, apparently. Their protective nature still shines through, and they use it to protect the young drones of the orthodoxy. Norn's Defiler from the same named cycle is called the Defiler of Faith. It not only destroys your faith, but it also lets you create soldiers for every other permanent that enters your side. I see this as the angels entering as a completed Phyrexian and bringing with them more drones as they have lost their own faith and needed a more stable one. Many of the words on cards associated with the orthodoxy have to do with faith, as we see here with the Apostle of Invasion. We've seen a new Norn power in this set too, with the power of song. The constant droning chorus of the machine orthodoxy's horde makes other beings feel subdued and strips their ability to think. For the machine, this feels like harmony. Of course, a tone where every sound becomes a harmony sounds awful to us, but to the machine, it is just another example of things falling into homogeneous order. One of the most ultimate conversions for Norn is Ajani, who obviously donned her colors. His skin is turned inside out, so that is more open to other creatures. We want to be together for the machine, of course, and he's dropped Elspeth's cloak and his brother's axe for more suitable armor and weapons as he strikes down upon Terrell and her angel-induced sword. But Ajani got to keep his voice and tone towards Elspeth, as he and Norn understood that it would help them get her to their side. In fact, all planeswalkers could keep most of their personality without being brainwashed too much. Because Norn would want it this way. Not because she's nice, but because she knows it keeps them in line better when the powerful walkers get to do what feels right to them. This is why Ajani only attacked after Elspeth renounced Phyrexia. Otherwise he could try and save Terrell by having her come to his side, which he failed at. The new version of Mummy Machine has a new power of influence. This one doubles ETBs and stops those from your opponents entirely. This is a weird power to explain, but I feel like it is because she strengthens the wills and skins of her minions and then strips you of both those things. I explain this by saying that every enter the battlefield effect is either from your body or from your mind, and those of her minions are always perfectly efficient and in order, which strengthens the whole hive in turn, and I have not found any Phyrexian exceptions to this rule. Correct me if I'm wrong, which I will thank you for. The Leonin that came before also felt this need to be close, was a way to be unified. Every young Leonin wishes to become a sky hunter, for they soar closest to the suns. Being close to the sun that grants you unity is a way of being unified with the whole, and that's a value for their whole culture. to the point of them riding flying dinosaurs as cats. The Slith from Mirrodin have the same feelings, and even they are instinctively drawn to the sun. This seems like the same piece of flavor, but apparently they call their son the Mother Sun, which is just like Elesh Norn. Now about Norn again, she finds flesh to be a betrayal of the self. This is because flesh is a barrier to your real body, the red part of it, remember. This is also why you will shed your flesh to open your core to your family. Of course, you need to be strong, so the easily removable porcelain will replace your former fleshy armor. Her argent etchings, which are the scriptures all of the Orthodox have to live by, states that skin is the prison of the blessed and the stronghold of the heretic, so every skin should be removed. And in the same vein, this time literally, we see how the machine celebrates sinews by splashing them around with captured enemies who are forced to watch the gruesome display. This is why this dancer taps his opponents with effort because he scares them, but once they begin to complete, they will think this dance is a display of beauty instead. You can now understand Norn's remark to Shieldred better when she said her creations are effective, but that we must unite the flesh, not merely flay it. Norn's methods are a lot more careful so that the inner bits of the body will be whole before they are attached to the main body of the machine. And thus Norn decreed that we are a single entity. The centers must be sutured into the orthodoxy, and she meant that literally. They will all get a shard of mommy's own bone put into their body so that they can't move, and one plate in their brains so that they can only think along with the machine. Elesh has the power to speak very loudly, and her minions mimic this. Here we see an angel who took it upon himself to help the choir spread their holy song. This angel does so by having the whole choir stuck in her wings. These are body parts that have their torso intact so that they can still sing beautifully. You can see what this does to the morale of the leftover Mirrans, having an angel with such a choir against you. We also see that this angel proliferates whenever they attack, meaning perhaps that these kinds of attacks on morale can help complete people that dare to enter the fair basilica. It does seem like our planeswalkers who come there eventually felt weakened and started to turn from the same songs. Elesh could speak so loudly that Kaido's eardrums almost bursted, and multiple planeswalkers already felt the need to kneel down to the Mother of Machines. Elesh Norn has a powerful voice and a powerful aura that mimics and improves on that of the Bringer Sun in such a way that our most powerful defenders cannot literally stand it. And of course, resisting that aura must be a mistake. To resist the embrace of the flesh singularity is to reject unconditional acceptance. The flesh singularity is one of the cults in the machine orthodoxy, and they have the goal of stitching all bodies of Mirrodin together. This here is perhaps Norn's second most famous card, because it can be an instant speed board wipe. It also shows us one of her strongest superpowers. This is that she can instantly remove all matter around her while standing in perfect health in the middle. She seems to invoke the power of her son for this. This is what happens when she has made her structures and doesn't need more dissenters to join her machine. Plus, we have seen before that she can turn people into stone, and from their stances I guess that Elesh can do this all at instant speed too. So that just makes her a better Fresca right there. Of course, she is not all powerful. All evil masterminds have to be destroyed at some point. Norn's weakness is that when her unshakable faith is shaken, she becomes perfectly stunned for a moment. We see this in Mox Opal when she found out that something seemed more perfect than her own machine orthodoxy. And we see it in the moment where Ashiok gave her a nightmare of Elspeth Terrell, who was earlier able to defeat large chunks of her army. It also seemed like organic matter could sprout from her own metallic gardens, and that could not stand. Eventually, she realized that imperfections in her creations were impossible, which allowed her to defy Ashiok for a moment, but this nightmare scared her into going for multiverse domination at an alarming rate, while forsaking careful planning and structural building, which is now making the World Tree plan very shaky. From the moment where Elesh Norn was born to Mirrodin, she felt like this world needed her blessings, and there was never anything that could shake this thought from her. But now that she'd seen organic matter taking back her world a bit, she allows a tree, which is organic in essence, to take her minions to other worlds by opening chaotic gates to them. Not very on flavor for her, but she's rattled, so it's pretty logical. We also have a new example of one of her minions coming to Vorinclex's domain. Here the cleric singer got to have a taste of the hunt, and now he never wants to return to the Basilica ever again, relishing in his hunting. Elesh Norn loves protection, so she built a monument to it. To her, her version of perfection is making 9 spheres and adding them in layers on top of each other, for some reason. That reason is that old Phyrexia used to be that way, and instinctively, all Phyrexians live up to their previous incarnation. But still, Norn built her own basilica in a fashion that's rather clean and perfect and not the really gritty version of old Phyrexia. It is almost monocolored, and the one red color you see elsewhere is meant to remind you that you're mortal and part of a whole. But the last couple of weeks have been hectic for Mom, so she brought new plants and they're sprouting upwards to ruin her perfect home. You know, that's okay. Sometimes we need a little change in our lives. And change we do, because we used to only be able to infect other places by getting our oil planeswalk there on accident, as you can see here. It's a very subtle method, but we need someone to bring our oil somewhere, and there used to not be many ways to do that. But now we've made the layers, and now that we've built a barrier to other planeswalkers so that we can capture whoever enters here, we might be able to get more planeswalkers to spread our world, and that would be the conservative, orderly thing to do. But Mommy is scared, so we will use the world tree's branches to combine all the worlds at once and invade them all. At the end of the story, Deseret noted that there were almost no safe worlds left. So it seems like the whole multiverse will be Phyrexian soon. That's great. I want to finish this up with Elesh Norn's magnum opus, which is Atraxa, the voice of all 4 relevant Praetors. Well, Norn invited Urbaz to the party, but he refused. Atraxa was an angel that fought to protect the Mirrans. Norn loved this, so she wanted all Praetors to help complete Atraxa, so that she could help unify Phyrexia. The missing color did make Norn's mission fail right away, but she still made Atraxa her own second in command to fight for Phyrexia with her own rights and her own choices. And now Atraxa is back in the new set, and she has a huge following of her own, because she can, for one, create new angelic full Phyrexians, and because her appearance sparks something in the changed Mirrans that obey her words. Note that she's not only all about unity, but also about progress, being predatorial and power. So this gives her some advantages over Norn too. But here's the problem for Elesh. One of Norn's creations has shed her blue identity and has strayed from her path, becoming more eager to garner power and strength for her creator. In doing so, Ixchel did compromise Atraxa a bit, but this does create an interesting situation, because now that Norn is occupied with conquering other worlds, Atraxa and Ixchel have free reign to change things around Mirrodin. Ixchel even created a child of her own, Fishgrass, and enabled Fishgrass leadership over the mites of the plane. Safe to say that Fishgrass is becoming a bit of a problem, so Ixchel banished him to the Hunter's Maze, where he will probably be great friends with Vorinclex in just a bit. To me, this signals the largest flaw in Norn's design up to this point, where Atraxa could take over a large part of Mirrodin if she so wished. But Norn will be there, of course, to stop this nonsense, or she will take over all of the multiverse before coming back to take back what is hers. I'm really hyped for Elesh Norn entering the battlefield on a lot of planes and -2ing all of her inhabitants, and I hope that you've got your answer about what her powers are and maybe also her weaknesses. Thank you for watching. Bye.